Welcome back to War Thunder, and welcome back yet again aboard the A-26B-50, the Invader. I'm still in the grinding process, I'm still in the spading process, and I have my difficulties with this plane to get my hands on a large portion of research points to go through the modules. This video will be quite time intensive, so take something to drink, maybe a bit of popcorn, lay back and enjoy the show, because this will be the attempt to carry hard. And obviously, if you have not seen the thumbnail, you might be spoiled now when I say this is kind of a heartbreaker. Now we are here on the Ruhr map and we are fighting obviously the Germans. We are in a mixed match and I am diving hard towards the left bombing point. There is another A-26 with me and he also seems to go for that. Now why would you fly the Invader like that? Every map has its own routes for fighters. There are not like written or hammered into stone, so to speak, so you can fly wherever you want. But usually it points out that the Germans from their airfield pointing fly a little bit to the left and climb hard, and the Allies also fly a little bit to the left, so it's a clockwise rotation, so to speak. That means that the combat clash is actually somewhere in the middle, and then the actual combat for the next few minutes I'm sorry about this, actually occurs on top of the frontline airfield for the Allied side. Now I switched back to the middle airfield for the middle bombing point. I now actually got my hands on the 4 times 1,000 pound bombs, and that is now good enough to destroy one single bombing point. Again, you can see that is not really an impressive bomb load in terms of pure bomber capacity. The Germans still have the advantage with their Do 217s, the E series, the K and the M. They feature with their bomb load 4 1,000 kilogram bombs, so there you can take out 2 bases. The thing that I'm doing here is quite simple, nothing really funky or special. I bombed the base and now I'm rushing home to the frontline airfield. I spot some artillery and some AAA locations. Now you have to take one thing into consideration. When you take them out, the enemy gets the kill message. Maybe they even see the tracer fire, and that would give away your position, because now you're low on the ground. And that is a very important lesson. I made like half a year ago numerous videos about this topic regarding ground striker tutorials. And so when you're very low to the ground, the enemy has a hard time seeing you because you don't get red boxed. So that means you still are visible for them if they exactly look at your position. However, the Invader has good camouflage, so to speak. It's a bit gray-brown mixture, and that is not so easy to spot. And what I'm doing here right now is a little bit bold. I'm actually landing right under the nose of the German team. The initial clash has not really happened yet, so that means they are still at altitude. With time, they actually will descend, and the final state of the actual team clash, so to speak, however you pronounce it, will happen at under 2,000 meters, where all the Focke-Wulfs do their defensive flying and the Spitfires try to run away. And at the end of the day, you know, this is the last possible moment that you can eventually do this. We're not so long in the match yet, and here you can probably hear it in the background. Fantastic engine sounds. I love them. All B-25 variants and also the attacker variants of the B-25 together with the A-26 Invader, both the A and C version, they have fantastic engine sounds. I love them. I could listen to them in the cockpit for hours, I swear to you. Now, I am second in place. I delivered 1.75 tons of bomb loads towards the bases. And that is kind of the problem. Normally, I would stay at altitude with a bomber like I have shown with the Lincoln or also the Ki-67s and hunt for enemy bombers. Sadly, the Germans are this kind of nasty nation that has dedicated bomber hunters and they know how to take them out and they don't field any bombers themselves. No wonder nobody likes Germans. Did I just really say that? Never mind. So now I'm starting off again, and now we see one really great feature of the Skyray. I played it too much lately. I'm sorry. Of the Invader, of course, and that is its acceleration and its really great speed in level flight. Now we can see a BF-109 that is going close to me. I'm not sure if he has spotted me, but it's unlikely despite him being that close. And that means I still am going for it. One possibility could have been that I just repaired and bailed out. I could have done this, but the match was not really old. I would have gotten a crew log, and I was just curious what you can do against the Germans with the Invader. This time I got it right. With this special tactic. And there we can see a Focke-Wulf 190 coming in really hard, and he has spotted me, no doubt about that. And now watch what happens. A little spoiler here, I will not shoot him down. I will not shoot him down. And that has to do with numerous reasons. First of all, the 50 cals are horribly inaccurate. I tried out numerous different belts. This time I was so desperate to actually go back to the stock belt for the turrets. I just didn't. People set on fire despite numerous hits at longer ranges. Even when people sit behind you, you just don't deal damage. Yes, at some point you make the engine smoke, but by the time you've done this, yeah, you know, they also have ripped off your wing, or they have done immense damage to your engines. And the oil filters or the oil cooling system is the one that is just always something that gets damaged. So I'm flying here with over 500 kilometers an hour in level flight. The second I go into the bombing view, the autopilot actually decides to climb. Yes, I know there is a manual control that you can do with it, but this is something that I usually don't do. Now he catches up and I actually level out. I'm going actually a little bit of a dive to catch up speed again, take out the base. It sadly needs all 4 bombs. 3 bombs just don't do it. Now you can see 3.5 tons delivered for 2 bases, and I'm still just second. And I am actually making ground to the Focke-Wulf, and we will see in a moment that he is fully upgraded and that he is also a Dora variant. Now I try my best with the spraying, but you can see how horribly inaccurate the guns are. So you just don't deal damage and you don't hit enemies in the first place. My shooting might not be very precise, you know, to the last pixel and no magic leading, but even with the spread and so on, you just don't hit. By the time you can actually make them count, the enemy is so close, well, that you have no chance of evading yourself. Now he's catching up, and a few hits and they force him to do a little bit of evasive actions. Nothing crazy though. And I got the blink 4, return to the battlefield, and I got spawned back. Immediately goes into a turn. It takes him precious seconds. Knowing Focke-Wulfs myself, I know he has now no chance of getting guns on me. And we can see it's a D13. And I continue the loop. In a normal fighter, I actually would have kind of tried to go into a rolling scissor or something, but you know, it takes too long to roll. And I am actually turning into him again. I'm really confident then that I would win a turn fight with him, but he crashed. He crashed. I have no idea how he did this. How did he really lose control over that? I don't know. However, here we see the next point on the invader. At this point, I did not have unlocked the radiators or the better or improved cooling system, but it really doesn't matter. You have kind of like 5 minutes of web and then they begin to overheat, but you can control it with manual engine control and with opening the flaps or the engine cowlings a little bit. Also, you know, just going back to 100% helps a lot. The next thing about the A-26 is the insane energy retention, even when stock. This is actually a curse when you try to land. So, at this point, you can imagine how it's going. The rest of the team has not done too well against the Germans. What a surprise. And I thought to myself, well, what can you do right now? At this moment, I was a little bit pessimistic, and at 35 kilometers, a Bf-109 turns up against a P-47, and they are kind of in a dogfight. I think it's so far away I can think of it being over our main airfield. Yeah, so I'm taking here a little bit of a left route, not directly towards the airfield. Now I'm doing it again, and that has to do, I expect enemies to just simply be somewhere close to our frontline airfield. If there are not many players left alive and not all of them are spotted, you're automatically looking for the airfield, looking into the air, looking for kill messages as a German fighter pilot. If you're not a German fighter pilot or a Japanese fighter pilot that has regularly to deal with American bombers or attackers that are just running and not just, you know, trying to get away momentarily, but to completely run and extend the game for extended period of time, you know, you actually know the drill by now. Now that actually was again questionable if I should have done this, but I showed a little bit of action, and you know, at the end of the day there is the Blind Hunt and the Avenger, both orders that just can ruin my stealth run here. Again, flying very low to the ground, you know, just over the top of the trees prevents you from getting spotted. We will get an example later on where this is just visible to a big extent, but I was actually sure that this guy should have spotted me. So, right about now, I think to myself, what can you do? I could go back to the main airfield and just, you know, fly in the security of our AAA. The frontline airfield doesn't have the AAA security that kind of the main airfield does have. Yeah, there is also AAA, but it's shooting very ineffectively. In the worst case scenario, it makes the enemy's engine smoke and he still can return to base, but it doesn't kill them. Or let's say it's very unlikely that it does so. So Bf-109G crashes. Well, yeah. And now I'm making a hard turn and landing again on the frontline airfield. I thought to myself, maybe I could go for the third base. At this moment, I was really, you know, thinking to myself, what should you do right now? Okay? I'm not an 82 Skyraider that just, can climb and turn fight the enemy, which is surprisingly effective. But the Invader, has the speed advantage. It's around about 100 kilometers an hour faster with ordnance than the 82 Skyraider. And that's quite a bit. But the Skyraider has more pinpoint bomb load or, um, yeah, more bigger bombs in this respect, and rockets with the full bomb load, whatever you take. The A-26 has at maximum payload 4 1,000-pound bombs or 14 HVR rockets. How useful they are, well, I don't know, but many people have reported that they think they are amazing in tank realistic battles. That might be, but it's quite a long way to get them, and up until that point, you're not very useful. So at this point, I actually decide myself to start again, and I see a Focke-Wulf 190, and he is suspiciously close to my airfield. So I'm turning in and I'm braking. I don't want to get strafed. I don't want to die for nothing. You might argue that at this point, yeah, I should give him the kill. I've, just done a little bit of ground striking, took out 2 bases and so on, but that's not enough for me. I'm not the player that gives up that easily if there is a real chance to get more points in time. People might argue, and rightfully so in many circumstances, that bailing out in this case and just going into the next battle would be the best thing to do, and I have to agree in terms of research points per hour, because I guess most people just have limited times per days where they can really play. If you're in the grind mode, you just want to grind out modules, maybe grind another plane. I'm not quite sure if a restart here justifies itself under this aspect. That's open for discussion, and that's kind of an individual standpoint that you have to look at. I here have decided to myself, I want to know what I can achieve. There was still a P-51 left. A Focke-Wulf here was actually running very low in terms of altitude, and I actually tried to avoid the ground forces of the Germans with their pillboxes and all the AAA, because that could also indirectly spot me. Good example is Norway. What German fighter pilots do, especially I have an eye for this, is looking for the AAA from the destroyer force on the left hand side, because that just zeroes in practically the black dots, so you don't have to look too much for yourself. Also, I want to avoid kind of the frontline airfield from the Germans, and there you can see the situation that I'm talking about. There is a Bf 109 awfully close. Awfully close. At one point he was under 2.8 kilometers of distance. That is quite something. And there is another Bf 109, and the second Bf 109 that is further away will cause the bigger problem, at least in the beginning. Watch. So again, what am I doing here? I try to avoid being detected by flying very low. This is the lesson. I think the base lesson is that you fly under 400 meters above the ground. So if the ground is like at 2000 meters altitude, you have to fly under 2400 meters. That is as far as I can tell it. On a rather flat map like Ruhr, that's not really such an issue, but fly just simply as low as you can. Now the Focke-Wulf D got himself a P-47N. I think that was one of the last players on our team, and one of the Bf-109s is beginning to ground strike. And now this other Bf-109 is very low, but I spot him. Normally I would say that means that he spots me as well, But I'm not sure if he doesn't look on the radar or he just wants to go for a landing because he's out of ammunition in the first place. I don't know. But now the next message comes. Destroy enemy units. This is a feature that Gaijin implemented a few months ago and actually refined it. And that is a 3 spots of like 8 to 10 trucks. And if you destroy all of them on one spot, the tickets will tick down a bit. However, I still have bombs for the last base. And that also will give me a good tick down. Wasting the bombs on those trucks is not something that I have in mind, because for them I can strafe them with my up to 14 M2 Brownings. And you can see I have nearly 5,000 rounds for them. That at first sounds very impressive, but again it's 14 machine guns. So very short, very well aimed bursts are something that you have to train very well. And there you can see the BF-109. I'm very close to the spawn point. I'm going into the bomber view and I'm waiting. Opening the bomb bay. Bombs away, bombs away, bombs away. And now I see that the BF-109 is landing. And now he might see me coming. But now I still have the speed. I can do a simple, very short strafing run on one of the trucks. That is good enough. No harm done. But you know, you can have to get everything that you can get your hands on. And now I'm going head on with a landed BF-109. I know this is a risky thing, and yes, there are numerous YouTube videos where somebody was landed and somebody tried to strafe him and he went just simply into the fire of the landed aircraft. And yeah, this G6 actually tried it and he actually hit me, but not enough to pop up my damage plane on the side. And I got him. And there you can see now the AAA is opening up. I still keep a lot of speed in the turn. You can see how fast the A-26 Invader is. The speed is phenomenal. It's just outstanding. I love it. At this point, I'm so deep into enemy territory. The enemies should know where I am right now. I'm doing long range bursts and I have to take them out as fast as I can. I also take one of the AAA with me again, not the most efficient way of flying through the targets. I take him out with my rear gunners and now I get the target immediately, but hey, this is how War Thunder works, I guess. 5.25 tons delivered of ordnance with 3 starts and numerous soft ground units. The normal ground units like AAAs and artillery positions, they don't count towards the points. On this map, it's purely the pillboxes and later on those vehicles. You see them by blinking. The blinking ground targets are the ones that count towards the points. Keep that in mind as a ground striker. I know AAA and artillery are much easier targets, especially for 50 cals, 20 millimeters and small bombs. And I know that the light pillboxes are very difficult to hit, and actually the big pillboxes are easier to hit, but it doesn't matter. So a few controlled short bursts, and I nearly crushed it with my wing, taking out the next vehicle with the rear gunner. Hopefully, yes, there we go. Sadly not the other one, because otherwise I could have flown through. And now I know I'm in trouble. Somebody has triggered blind hunt, so they actually 100% see me and I got red boxed. And I am behind their airfield. Of course, after this long of engagement, we are approaching now nearly 25 minutes of flying. They're on their way home in the first place. Now, the defensive gunners on the A-26, they have many problems. First of all, they're just 50 cals. Then, when they are not upgraded, you know, they just have no stopping power, are horrendously inaccurate and overheat. But furthermore, on the A-26 in particular, they are controlled by a single gunner. And the box on the A-26, which combines the two turrets, is actually really big. And there is not a lot of armor going on there. And it gets hit very easily. Now at this point, I tried to run. I tried to turn into them a little bit, but this Focke-Wulf is way too fast. He's coming out of a dive, and I just have to do the one thing that the A-26 can do better than a Focke-Wulf, doing the unexpected thing. And knowing how bad Focke-Wulfs, especially the D-series, handle in correcting their aim, I easily can control the engagement here. He does the sensible thing and actually holds his altitude at first. Now he comes down. Now we can see the sluggish handling of this, twin-engined kind of medium bomber or attacker thing. And I nearly have him in my sight. And I'm pretty sure that a few 50 cals came awfully close to him. Also evading very easily the second D9. Both pilots are in a platoon. And I try now to run. Definitely some hits. He rams me. Yeah, but I'm too slow. I'm not accelerating fast enough, and the other Focke-Wulf is now coming in. I try to do some desperate attempts to hit him, but now, with the first hitting salvo, he actually hit my defensive gunner. Ouch. That hurts. And there is absolutely nothing that I can do. I tried my best. I still try to do something. But now he has crippled my plane really badly. And he has snapped the control cables. Another thing that the A-26 has going for it as a problem, rather, that the control cables are easily snapped by even some 20mm gunfire. And that was actually a pilot knockout at the end. Congratulations to the Doras, they actually made a good job. Unlike the D13 in the first match, they had a better position and they didn't screw it up. And they also outnumbered me, which is also a thing. A lucky hit on my defensive gunner. I tried my best, and at this point I was kind of thinking to myself, is it really worth putting so much time into it? Just grinding those planes that I know that don't perform to my satisfaction? Well, let's have a quick look at the results. And I got just shy of 50,000 silver lines and over 4,500 modification research points. That unlocked me the radiator for 1 plane killed and 17 soft ground units and 3 destroyed bases with a 10% booster on a loss. But still, the income is pathetically low despite the 6,691 score points for 5.2.5 tons delivered of ordnance to the enemy bases. I don't know what I should say at this point, but it really breaks my heart every time I have such a match. I don't want to really criticize here my team or something, because I knew what's likely to happen and I did not really support the rest of my team too much, because I was actually part of the problem. I was in an attacker, I was in a bomber, but I want to spade it. I want to make the best out of this. It's easier with German planes, I have to say, with German ground attackers to win a match and therefore also get match by match a better income. But what is the purpose of those planes? Because the real problem, this match was a decent income, but it was an outstanding match in terms of my actions, my doing, and the effort put in. The problem that I have with certain aircraft in War Thunder is that they have an unnecessary grind. Like you have to upgrade the offensive armament, the defensive armament, then you have to upgrade the flight performances because the plane relies on it, and then you also have to upgrade the bomb load because that is what makes you at the end of the day, for this kind of playstyle with this kind of plane, the income. So you have to play better. I know there is grinding, but other planes don't have those issues. Other planes have from the beginning a decent bomb load. And I'm not just talking here about something like the Lancaster or the Do 217. I'm talking about numerous other planes that can adapt numerous versatile playstyles. But with the A-26 Invader, you're kind of bound to this kind of playstyle. You can try to run, you can try to gun down the enemy, but at the end of the day, that just doesn't bring you the results and you get shot down. Unlike the Ki-67s, you don't have the defensive firepower and you don't fly against Americans. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see each other in the skies of War Thunder.